He played for coins, but his heart played for her. Every morning, as the sun began to warm the cobblestones of Old Town Square, Leo would find his spot. It was the same one he'd claimed for years, right by the ancient fountain where tourists tossed coins and made wishes. He'd unlatched the case of his weathered accordion, its leather straps worn smooth by time and touch. The first notes he played were always soft, a gentle awakening for the waking city, a melancholy tune that seemed to carry the weight of 100 untold stories. People bustled by, a river of faces. Some would slow their pace, their expressions softening as the melody reached them. Others, lost in their own worlds, barely noticed the man and his music. A few would drop coins into his open case, the clinking sound a brief acknowledgement of his art. Leo would nod, a small, grateful smile touching his lips, but his eyes were always searching, scanning the crowd for one particular face. Her name was Clara. She worked at the little flower shop across the square, the one with the bright blue awning. Every day, at precisely 9 o'clock, she would step outside to arrange the buckets of fresh blooms roses, lilies, and her favorite, sunflowers. As Leo plagied, his gaze would drift to her. He watched the way she handled the flowers with such care, the way the sunlight caught the stray strands of her auburn hair, the way she would sometimes pause, close her eyes, and just listen. Leo's music changed when he saw her. The notes became richer, more vibrant. The melancholy waltzes transformed into lively polkas, tunes filled with a hope and a joy he rarely felt otherwise. He poured everything he couldn't say into his music, his longing, his admiration, his silent, overwhelming affection. He played for her, hoping she would understand the language of his melodies, the serenade that was meant only for her ears. Clara, for her part, was not oblivious. She heard the shift in the music each morning. She felt the energy that pulsed from the accordion, a current that seemed to flow directly to her. She would steal glances at the musician, this quiet man, who seemed to command the very air with his songs. There was a story in his eyes, a depth that intrigued her. She'd hum along to his tunes as she worked, a secret smile playing on her lips. She wondered about him, about the life behind the music. One rainy Tuesday, the square was nearly deserted. The usual stream of tourists had been driven away by the downpour. Leo sat under the small overhang of a nearby cafe, his accordion silent on his lap. He didn't expect to make much today, but his routine was a comfort, a constant in a shifting world. He watched the rain dance on the stones, feeling a familiar loneliness creep in. Just then, the bell on the flower shop door chimed. Clara emerged, holding a large umbrella. She didn't just walk across the square. She hurried, her steps splashing in the puddles, straight towards him. She stopped right in front of him, her cheeks flushed from the cool air. "You're not playing today," she said, her voice as soft as he'd imagined. Leo was taken aback. He could only shake his head. "The rain. It's not good for the instrument." Clara smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that made his heart skip a beat. "I know. But the square feels empty without your music." She then held out a small bouquet of sunflowers. "I thought, maybe these could bring some sunshine to this gray day." Leo stared at the flowers, then at her. He was speechless. He reached out a slightly trembling hand and took them. Their fingers brushed, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through him. "Thank you," he managed to whisper, his voice hoarse with emotion. "They're beautiful." "They reminded me of your music," she replied. "Happy music." From that day on, something changed. Their silent exchange across the square was replaced by small, daily rituals. She would bring him a coffee in the morning. He would play her favorite song, a cheerful tune he'd composed just for her, which he simply called Clara's Theme. They started talking first about the weather, then about their dreams. Leo learned that Clara dreamed of opening her own garden one day, a place filled with every flower imaginable. Clara learned that Leo had inherited the accordion from his grandfather, and that he'd been playing since he was a boy, dreaming of one day composing for an orchestra. They discovered a shared language that went beyond the music, a connection that had been growing silently for months. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Leo was packing up his accordion. Clara came over after closing her shop. "Leo," she began, a little nervously, There's a local arts festival next month. They're looking for performers. He looked down at his old accordion case. Oh, I don't know. That's for real musicians. You are a real musician, she insisted, her eyes full of conviction. The best I've ever heard. Your music makes this whole square feel alive. You should share that with more people. She paused. I can help you sign up. Her belief in him was a force more powerful than any applause he'd ever received. He looked from her earnest face to the cobblestones where he'd played for so long. Maybe it was time for a new song, a new stage. With Clara's encouragement, Leo signed up for the festival. He practiced for weeks, not just his usual repertoire, but a new piece he was composing. It was a story told in music. It began with the quiet, melancholy notes of a lonely morning in the square, then swelled into the lively, hopeful melody of Clara's theme. And finally, it soared into a grand, triumphant finale, full of passion and promise. It was the story of them. The night of the festival arrived. The stage was much bigger than his usual spot by the fountain, and the crowd was a sea of unfamiliar faces. For a moment, his old self-doubt returned, but then he saw her, standing in the front row, holding a single sunflower. She gave him that radiant smile, the one that had first broken through his solitude. Leo took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and began to play. He wasn't playing for coins anymore. He wasn't just playing for her. He was playing for them, for their story, for the future he now dared to dream of. The music poured out of him, a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest treasures are not found in the coins tossed at your feet, but in the connections that give your heart a reason to play its most beautiful song. As the final note faded, the crowd erupted in applause. But the only sound Leo truly heard was the beat of his own happy heart. Thanks for watching.